You're listening to All Things 3D, where we talk about the world of fabricating, designing, and capturing in the third dimension.
Bonjour, et là le des dîners.
Morning, everybody. Hi, this is Mike Balzer from All Things 3D. Hey, we've got a new year. This is 1/6/2018. And this particular episode, we're going to be talking about the other thing that goes on at the beginning of the new year, and that is CES, or Consumers Electronics Show. And it's something that happens annually. I've been there a couple of times. So, with that being said, I think we're going to start right into the first news item, and which would be what's going on at CES. And obviously, the big news will be Google, Intel, NVIDIA, probably a lot more. In fact, some of the things that I will actually be introducing at CES, or not necessarily I, meaning me, but there'll be a few other participants, which we'll hopefully have on the show later on today. And that is Jeff Powers from Occipital, as well as either Matt or Montana from Mira, which makes the Mira Prism, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Okay, so with that being said, let's kind of get right into this. So, some of the things that people are obviously excited about is, well, as you're probably aware of, the huge security snafu built into the Intel processors. And it appears that some people are saying already this is a big opportunity for NVIDIA, who, as you're probably aware of, not only makes the GPU in many of your PCs, if you're an NVIDIA fan, but also makes SoCs. And we've talked about it several times, the Tegra series, with the one that I am in particularly in love with, and that's the TX2, which I have my suspicions might be in either the upcoming Vapor product, as I call it right now, Magic Leap, or the upcoming mobile, what do you want to call it, tetherless mobile headset from Oculus. Can't think of the name right now, which may also see a debut at CES. So here's a nice little article. It doesn't say a lot. Obviously, cars are going to be another big thing. There always are at CES. And what some of you may or may not be aware of is that NVIDIA, with their TX2 chip, have made processors that they've sold to a number of manufacturers to provide AI and driverless capability. So that's something that you should probably take a look at. Okay, let's go into another item for today. Let's see, what do we have? Yeah. Oh, this is a good one. Let's see. Yeah. So obviously, watching NVIDIA, we just talked about that. So this to me is an exciting news item, and that is Roto VR's HTC Vive 0.15, and I think that's more of a question mark. Or will it be the Vive 2? And they've got some ideas on what this particular headset will be. And essentially, if you look behind me, they're thinking that their displays might jump up to 1440 by 1600 to match that of the Odyssey, which many people feel is the headset at the end of 2017 to buy, which is a Microsoft mixed reality type headset. But suspicions are that they'll increase that. They might go with a new lens system. And so that will be available. The other one that I think will probably be introduced into this is the new tracking system. And I'm really looking forward to this because one of my goals is to create an inexpensive VR cave for visualization with architects and so forth. And there's a couple ways of doing that. One is to use possibly Microsoft mixed reality systems, which do not use a tracker system, but is all built inside the headset itself, or going with the an alternative system, but many of those systems are very expensive, or with these new trackers from Steam. But in order to use them, not only do you need a headset, or I'm sorry, these new light towers, but you also need a headset that are both compatible. And Road to VR did a good job of identifying what needs to be done. Excuse me. And here's the actual headset itself. So you have your base station, and here they show both what the one is compatible with and then the two. And this is the chipset that it's compatible with, as you can see here. Excuse me. And the interesting thing is that not only is the new tracking system uh, allow an extended range of 33 feet, but it's a simpler design. The other thing that's not mentioned, I don't think it's mentioned in the article, is that you can gang a number of these sensors together to create even a larger playing field, as it may be said, something like maybe 100 feet, which would be very cool for a warehouse type situation. So there's a lot going on. We're going to find out more at CES, so we'll have to look into that. But I'm pretty excited about this because I actually own two HTC Vives, and they kind of are my go-to headsets. I do like the FOV on these, and if it's improved, plus a higher resolution like what you're seeing in the Microsoft Mixed Reality, they could have a winner here. And some people are thinking they may actually reduce the price as well. So we shall see. Okay, so let's move on to the next item. Speaking of mixed reality headsets, this is they're saying now that mixed reality headsets are gaining. I had no doubt that this would happen. You're going to see this probably happen more and more. Some of these headsets are very low cost. For instance, the Acer system, I think I've seen around $150 for the headset, and then you add the $100 for the controllers. About 250 so you can get involved in VR. Obviously, mixed reality is somewhat of a misnomer since they're essentially VR headsets. And then they're saying that the Samsung Odyssey is one of the best VR headsets out there right now. And frankly, the inside out tracking system is superb. In fact, the demo that I showed earlier with my chatting with Vincent that will be going on in alpha, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. It was using the mixed reality headset in that particular demo. So I'm pretty excited about what's going to happen in this area. The fact is, it is also Steam compatible. I think is also an important thing that allows a lot of the games to work. Ironically, though, the uh, the Valve the Lab still doesn't work, and I've tried it on two different systems with two different mixed reality headsets, and for whatever reason, it crashes when it starts. Which is not the case when you use their own headset. So that's or the HTC Vive. So that's kind of interesting. You can read more about this on where this is going, but again, I think it's a little bit of a no-brainer uh, because people are bundling meaning bundling. OEMs are bundling this with their systems, so you can probably get these even cheaper than the 150. All right, so on to the next item, and I've got a little video to show first. Well, I don't know about you, but that was extremely impressive. This is something that, gosh, what I want to say about a year ago, maybe even longer than that I saw. But Engadget has this little article that says that now you can download it. And sure enough, I was able to download it, have not tried it yet. So you too can be part of the VR experience in what does he call it? The apartment in VR. But Decker's apartment, if you remember correctly. And as you can see, the mood is really, really stunning. So you could walk around, and I guess the device, the Esper, is there, and you can poke around with it, and then obviously sit on the balcony and look out. So I'm really excited about this, and we'll be taking a look at it probably this weekend sometime. It's going to be competing with the bedroom with my friend Vince, but obviously a lot of work went in this. This has been, gosh, like I said, I want to say a year and a half ago, I saw previews of this. So hats off to the guy for moving this forward. Really think it's a cool product. And I think in this article, there was a download. Yeah, so go out to the Google Drive right now and download. It's about a 1.3 gigabyte file, but well worth it if the output looks like this. So again, I will report back next week on actually, I'll probably look back on this on Tuesday when I do the tech closet. Okay, let's move on to the next items. When I was at CES in 2015, XYZ made a huge splash debut of a lot of their printers. Well, they're back. And not only are they back in the consumer market again, but they're back into the industrial market. So they've got a lot of different things. Here's a little video. And like mentioned, they actually put a lot of effort into creating a large booth. So they're taking 3D fabrication very seriously, both in the consumer market and in the industrial market. Yeah, actually, that didn't show anything. But they're introducing a new Nano, which is this little unit here. Let's see, less than about $200. So if you've held off, you might want to look into this. They haven't got the best ratings, but they have improved over the last year. And if you saw an episode that I did about 2 weeks ago, I brought in some of the reviews from Make Magazine, and they don't give it a bad review. It's not the best one, but for $229, which again, this was not reviewed, but if it's similar to some of their other low end products, you really can't go bad with it. And if you want to introduce this, it's funny though, this should have been introduced at Christmas, but the fact is that you're seeing it now is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't understand why CES is not in November. It really puts a stress on a lot of people like myself who are trying to get products and things ready by the uh, the new year. So my holiday is normally spent doing this. Oh well. Okay, on to the next item. Um, this is hmm, so I've kind of jumped ahead on this. Oh well. So back into design and engineering. These are some lens systems made by Luxecel, and we've talked about them before. Essentially, you can provide them a lens design, and they will 3D fabricate your lens. So it's kind of a just-in-time process. The company Vuzix Blade AR, which is going to be introduced at CES, it's really kind of cool. In fact, let's jump out to it right now so that you'll get an idea. And when they say AR, essentially, it's a lens system that augments, and here we go. Here's some images of it. Let's go out to my friends out at Road to VR. So it looks like a thick sunglass type frame. I had an opportunity as I was leaving some of the pavilions at CES in 2015 to see their first version of this. So they've progressed, and the lenses here, as mentioned, are going to be fabricated custom to someone's prescription, which I think is pretty cool. I don't know what the turnaround time is. We'll go back to the article in a minute. But the other thing is that they're going to have sensors built into them. So I'm not too sure where those would be, but provide inside out tracking. So these could be a very interesting mixed reality system if they make the light of day. You can, or let's see, I don't think they identify. I saw somewhere, yeah, it was this article. So you can pre-order, but they require a $500 deposit, and they'll be about $2,000. And they're kind of pushing these into the prosumer and the enterprise-focused markets. So really looking forward to that. But let's jump back to that article. So essentially, this company can design lenses, quick turnaround, and in this case, they could provide a prescription to them, and then they could print out the lenses and send them back. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. All right, on to the next item. So in 3D in medicine, let's see where we're at. I jumped around. I guess we're okay. This is a software prosthetic from a manufacturer. No, actually, it's more based upon the software. Steeper manufacturers creates innovative prosthetics, but more importantly, as they identify here, the challenges is designing one. And so as you can see here, a female adolescent Asian market. So the design solution is modeling. I also think scanning plays a big part in this as well. We're collaborating with SolidWorks, but other applications can be used. But the fact is that they're making specific software to make this easier to create custom design. I think is very important. And then as they show in the results here, it not only has 140 Newton grip capability with individual motors for each hand. I can't think of this not being very expensive, but it looks really, really nice. Okay, so let's move on to scanning. This has more to do with VR scanning. And there's a couple of solutions here VR avatars in 10 minutes. This is from IC Space. It's a researcher at Bielefeld University Cluster of Excellence. What I found very interesting about this article is that they use DSLRs to cameras to photograph the user from all angles. Well, that doesn't seem to be something unusual or new. And then he says using these photographs can create an accurate 3D model within 10 minutes or less. So I don't really see what is new here. Essentially, they're taking a 3D model and maybe composing it in a brief period of time and then making it available for AAA games. So essentially, probably a low polygon model with a higher resolution mesh. Um, don't know. And actually, they showed the character here. There's another article, and I don't know if it's the same people, but here again is the system. Yeah, same company creating the same thing. But the key that confuses me is that, as I just mentioned about 2 minutes ago, this process is not new. It's photogrammetry using expensive, let's say a $500 DSLR. You have to multiply that by 500, let's say for the low end version, by 40. And so we're looking at what, $20,000? That's not cheap in my book, at least. And then you have to have these set up on camera stands. So it's not something that you can just take somewhere and move forward with. And then, as we've covered with, what do they call a Microsoft's hologram, which uses a similar system, they have stationary, um, what do you want to call it? Environments set up specifically for this. So I'm a little confused on what this particular thing is doing that's different from some of the things that are already out there. Maybe the fact is that they're doing a study and using that information to interact with oneself. I don't know. But the fact is, I do think it's cool, and it would be very interesting. Maybe I should do this with myself. And remember, Itzy's 3D that works with the structure sensor also has similar features for at least the head that you can marry into Unity. I have not played with the feature that extensively, but you should be able to do the same thing with that as well. And maybe we might be moving forward with that. So it's interesting. As if you saw the ending of my little trailer at the beginning of this show, if not, go back and take a look at it, or if you saw the video I uploaded the other day. This particular video shows at the end of it using planar reflective maps in Unreal to allow you to look at oneself. And I actually just put my body on that particular map. Okay, so let's move on to the next item. So this is finally, there's going to be a debut with the Lenovo Daydream by Google headset. And we've covered it a little bit before, but the interesting thing is it uses what they call worldview. But worldview, I'm a little confused now because this, as well as you remember HTC Vive, or not Vive, HTC released a standalone headset too, and they're all based upon the Qualcomm prototype or developer system that uses two parallax RGB cameras in the front to provide the worldview functionality. I'm just calling it worldview. But what makes this a little different, not only do you have a system that will be available for the United States using Daydream, unlike the HTC, which has its own proprietary software system, it will debut with Daydream and also include this they call it the VR 180, which is their new mode that uses two cameras with a 180 view. But more importantly, it creates a parallax recording, so seems three-dimensional. And so you can click their notify and put your email address in to be notified when it's available. I don't know what this will cost. I'm assuming it'll probably about $700-800. It is rumored to have a Qualcomm 835 Snapdragon chip, like the HTC version. That's why I still think these are all based on the reference design by Qualcomm. And if that's the case, supposedly they're also going to be announcing, meaning Qualcomm, an 845, either at CES or the mobile show in Barcelona in just a couple months thereafter. And if that's the case, this technology is already going to be old by the time it hits the market. The cool thing is it will be Daydream compatible, but will it be worth, let's say it's going to be $700, or is it just easier to buy a Google Pixel phone and Daydream? Again, there is an advantage of this. You get inside out tracking, but it still uses the same little controller that you have with the Daydream system. Unlike the mixed reality headset, which has actual handsets that interact in 6 degrees of freedom, unlike the Daydream controller, which is only 3 degrees of freedom. But if it's about $700 and you need something that's a standalone unit, this might be something to look at. All right, let's move on to the next item. So these are some VR controllers. I don't know if they'll be released at CES, but it's funny how they make a reference to Black Mirror. But I guess they're going to be about $15,000. And not only do they have tactile response, but they can be used to feel pain. And if you remember, I talked about creating a device that would shock you playing certain games, which could be kind of fun. But here's their full setup. But feel like being sucker punched. I don't know if people want to be hurt in VR, but I think that could be very interesting. Currently, when you're in a VR environment, there really isn't any consequences to the actions when you're in VR. So this could be very interesting to be able to do this. Okay, so let's move on. So I thought this is interesting. This isn't really a CES unit, but if you're wondering, well, if I don't like any of the games that are available on Steam VR or in the HTC store or the Microsoft store or the Oculus store, can I um, use some of my favorite games? And there's something called Warp X. They've been around for a while. Uh, so I guess they have a new release, and there are many games that they have made. What do you want to call it? VR compatible, which means they split the screen, create an environment that seems three-dimensional, and then in some cases provide some, not necessarily hand controllers. I think you still have to use a keyboard and mouse. But I thought they were very intriguing. I really liked the Half-Life mod that had been created for the Half-Life 2, and really thought with the positional tracking of the earlier Oculus Rift developer kits, to be able to look around a corner was a really neat feature. And obviously, now that we do have VR, what did I play with my stepson, who's down in San Francisco, also in tech? We played Arizona Sunshine together, and I thought that was really cool. The two of us together were working as a team. We both sucked. Don't tell him that. He's actually a really good gamer, but obviously has not played much VR. But I thought it was very interesting that you felt extremely immersed in an environment surrounded by, what do you want to call it? The living dead, walking dead, whatever you want to call them. And if you've ever played Left 4 Dead, the Valve game, this is very similar to that, except obviously you're not looking at a flat screen now. You are now part of it. And so you aim and you shoot, and the effects are pretty good. There's some rough edges still, but I thought the whole experience, I think we played for about an hour and a half, and it didn't feel like a very long time. They have a, what do you want to call it, teleporting transport system that works effectively. I never really felt sick during the whole game. So they did a very good job of tracking, and the frame rate seemed pretty good. So I was pretty happy with that. But some of these other games, you're not going to get that experience. But if you want to try them out, uh, this is available. Here's a list of the games that are possible with this. So I think there's a cost to it. Here's a full list. Excuse me. So it tells you the type of rendering, if head tracking is available for both rotational and positional. I'm assuming the green means it is possible. But there is a large number of games that can be converted, and obviously the list will be growing longer. So let's see if, uh, interesting, yeah, Left 4 Dead 2 is in there. Far Cry. Let's see. Did I see Half-Life? Yep, Half-Life 2. So might want to try it out if you want to look at some oldies and goodies in VR. I played with an earlier version. It does work. This one supposedly is better. So head out and try it yourself. Okay, so now I think that's about it for the news items. So I'm going to jump in and kind of give a personal plug to myself and kind of talk a little bit. I'm running a little bit short, which I guess is good. I wanted the show to be about a half hour, and it is about a half hour. So before I get into my own little product, let's jump out to CES. And if you've never been, and this is going to be your first year, well, one, good for you. But if you've never been to Las Vegas, well, I think it's a mixed bag. It's very bright and colorful, I'll say that. But if you're a non-smoker like I am, you might be a little affected by the fact is that many of the casinos are not smoke-free areas, and I felt it irritated my eyes. But each to their own. But the reason that I'm out here is to kind of show the floor itself. So many of you will probably be going there to take a look at some items. So let's jump out to the featured exhibitors. So you can actually go out there yourself, but here's a full list of it. And if you click on any of these, you can go out to the floor plan. And keep in mind, CES is a very huge show in multiple pavilions, in multiple locations. So I would make sure if you're going to plan out your day. I've tried to do that and still felt I wasn't planned well enough for what the events that I wanted to cover back in 2015. But if you don't have to actually try and do a show by yourself, take the time to relax, give yourself plenty of time. And I think there is also an app for this as well. Put on your walking shoes. There is a lot of walking at the show. So let's see. Jump back to it. And then there's a directory. So let's kind of look up a couple of people that if you're going, I would recommend that you head out to Occipital, who is in the LBC South Hall. So that's the main area. And this is where they're at on the show floor. So this is what I would do. And I've done this in the past. Find out who you want to go to and map them out, and then either print them out or make image composite screen captures and put them on your phone. And as mentioned, I think the app also allows you to bookmark a lot of your links. If not, just copy the links here and then put them in your phone. Really makes it easier. I do know in 2015, security was pretty strong, and I have a feeling it will be strong. So make sure you go out and look if you have not already. For instance, in some cases, you're only allowed to have one bag, and they have identified, at least in 2015, some of the issues that might go along, like multiple electronic items. So they want you to kind of limit what you actually bring in. So if you're like me, just have a backpack setup. Mine was fairly big and I didn't have any problems with it, but just kind of keep that in mind that there might be some pretty strong security. All right. So with the website here itself, you have this little blinking light and then you can go into it. So they're going to be right next to Netflix. So it'll be interesting what Netflix will be doing in the augmented reality area. But you can see that once you're here, you can probably hang out with the rest of them. What I also thought was interesting is that you have Kodaks, so they're bringing in some of the 360 cameras, Pico technology. They are also making handsets. So a lot of these companies I've seen before. If you click on them, it gives you an address and a phone number and a website. So, like many of these companies, if you go out to their website, they'll identify what they're actually going to be showing. And I'm not going to mention it yet. I'll wait till I bring up another company that I think you should head out to. And they are actually located in a different building. And so here you have Tech West, Tech South, Tech East. And then you also have the, let's see if we can expand this. Yeah, so these are all part of the same. Here's the Sands Expo. Oh, can't remember where the other building is, but so here's the Convention Center, Sands Expo, the Venetia, the Palazzo, and then the area Vidara. So these are all in physically different locations and they have shuttles, but the shuttles were always extremely busy. So make sure you give yourself plenty of time. So go out to Mira. So why am I bringing up Mira? Mira creates, actually, this might not be, well, uh, don't, hmm, maybe I get the wrong one. Okay. So had the wrong one. So Mira Reality is the one that you want to take a look at. They're available in the, again, a different building from where Occipital was at the Science Hall G 50909. And why am I bringing them up? Well, let's take a look at Mira and then we'll go out to Mira. I think I may have talked about this, but my developer kit came in. And essentially it is, yeah, I talked about it several times. My developer kit came in, and I have to say I was very impressed with this because even though they're taking the screen of an iOS device, iPhone 6, 7, 8, and they'll have a version supposedly at 10. I don't know if they'll actually be showing it at CES, but they do have some prototypes, so that is in the works, which is what I'm really looking forward to. But this is a cool device because it takes the LCD screen of the iOS 6 or iPhone 6, 7, and 8 and projects it on a semi mirrored lens, as you see there, and allows these objects to be floating in space. And having taken a look at this and actually tried the HoloLens, I was very impressed on what you could see out of this. And more importantly, the cost of it. This is less than $100, fits your current iPhone. And like I said, I was using it with an iPhone 6 with no problems. So you could go back and buy a cheap iPhone, an earlier model, for $300 to $400 with this and have a very low cost mixed reality system. And that I thought was very fun and very enjoyable. And more importantly, very comfortable. As you can see there, it's literally a single band that fits on your head and has a little Velcro strap. So it's, I think, a very, what I call a svelte design, very slim, compact, and pretty cool. Now, the problem with it, the disadvantage or the deficiencies in the design is sadly there is no positional tracking. Now, they do have a marker based system that you put down, but I noticed that you have to look down at it, which means the camera, the front facing camera, has to be looking at it for it to lock on the tracking. When it does, it did seem to work pretty well. So I could see, since I've worked with Occipital, and they will be debuting at CES. I think they may have had it last year, but I'm not sure. The core. And the core, and I've talked about it before, is this little unit here that it contains multiple camera arrays, but more importantly, the same um, structure sensor that you see in the Connects as well as in their previous structure sensor, all in an OEM device that is USB-C uh, compatible. And as they mentioned here, will be available on multiple platforms, and one of them being iOS and their own Bridge SDK. And with that being the case, you can order a developing kit. It's sadly a little expensive. I think it's like, let's see what it cost. Yeah, $5,000, but you get the full SDK, and then you can get additional units for $1,000. But it appears to be a really nice unit. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that it is fully self contained. It's a depth sensor with multi-positional or multi-positional. Like I said, it has a laser structure sensor built into it, plus two infrared cameras, not just one like the structure sensor in the Kinect, in a parallax setup. So you not only get the spatial information of the stochastic or the pattern that's generated by the laser to determine depth, but you also get the parallax effect. So you get a better three-dimensional tracking capability. Also, there is a wide-angle lens that is built in, very similar to the lens attachment they created for the structure sensor and their bridge system. But this is all built in a very compact, very light system that is powered by USB-C, and depending on the cable, can be used with multiple devices. So the key here is lightweight, and by combining this and this, I came up with this. Now, this is extremely important because what this allowed me to do is create a device that attaches to this and will allow full positional tracking. Yes, that's right, full positional tracking. So you will be able to do something very similar to the HoloLens or that vapor product, Magic Leap, with, as I used the word, twice the size VHS. And this is why I brought this up. I compared it, testing it the last about 2 or 3 nights ago, and found that if you put your hands in front of you, this is a VHS tape, halfway, about right here. This is what I saw in the Mira Prism. So, and my hands off screen, about like that. So you have a wider field of view. And let me jump to an image real quick. I've got a few of them, and I didn't want to jump through all of them. So let me go ahead and do it now. So this is what you see in it. Now, I intentionally darkened the room so you could see my little tiny Christmas tree, but it's very colorful, very bright, and I was very surprised in how well it worked in regular light. And it does seem like the object is out there floating and you can interact with it. And they have a little controller very similar to the Daydream controller that comes included with this. But when you marry it with the occipital bridge system, you get what the bridge offers, which is very HoloLens like, which is the full positional tracking, 6 degrees of freedom, inside out tracking, as well as 3D mapping of the room for occlusion. So you can put objects with, um, oh geez, physics onto an object and it will know that the object's there. So you could put objects on real life tables, objects, and it can both use vertical and horizontal mapping. So you could throw a ball, let's say, at a wall and it will bounce off of it. So imagine being able to do this with a very inexpensive headset like the Mira Prism. So that is the big news. Hopefully, and I'm trying to push this out. I was hoping Mira would be on right now. Maybe I'll just leave this back up and we'll talk about it a little bit more. Let me check my email real quick, see if they responded. I don't see a response. So a lot of them are getting ready for the show. So we'll have to see. Maybe they'll pop in a little bit later. But Jeff did promise that he'll be on the show a little bit later around noon. So I'll go ahead and go through the rest of these images. So as mentioned, I was working on, let me jump back to, with Occipital over the last couple of, actually, it's about 3 years now, 3 years now, making cases, worked with them with their previous prototypes for their bridge VR system. And now we're pushing into mixed reality and augmented reality with a sensor system, which I'm very excited with, not just because the sensor itself, as I'll bring back here, being very cool, very lightweight, but also the fact that they back it with a lot of really easy to work with SDKs. They will have a Unity plugin for this, as well as the iOS um, SceneKit SDK as well. So you combine those together, and you're going to have an extremely powerful environment that can be used with an iOS device. And keep in mind, the fact is that Apple now has developed their own augmented reality, or as they call it, AR kit. There are going to be ties from other companies like Occipital with some deep rooted connections to the hardware that they did not have before. So we're probably going to see even better performance with these type of products. Okay, so let's I'm going to jump back. So these are some of the renders that I created, and then I'll show you the actual product. So let me jump back. So if you remember, and let's see if I can do it real quick. I'll put the mirror. So, and I'll just throw that in there. Let's see how I want to do that. Okay. Let's see. Just give me a moment. Nope, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Hmm. Well, I'll just jump back and forth. So here is the picture of the mirror. So there is a plate. Let's see if we can jump down. It gives you a little bit more. I call it the brow plate. That's a little flat surface. And then you push the phone up at an angle into some fabric. So it's a really, really cool design. And the fabric is elastic, so it keeps the phone in place, makes it very easy to slide up into it. But as mentioned, there's a brow plate, which I designed this to attach using 3M adhesive, the EHB adhesive. So it fits on there very firmly. And then you mount the sensor to this base here that is made. And let's see, I can jump to another picture. So there you go. And then let's see if I have a side profile. So here's the actual, whoops. Actually, I didn't show any of that. So let me jump to this one. So if you notice, there's a notch in here. It's at an angle, so the phone slides up into it. So that's how that would work. And then here's it from behind. So with the core sensor and special case that I created for it, does not have the glass on the front of it. But essentially, this will allow this to be mounted very light. I can't remember, only a few ounces. So it doesn't add to the weight, so it can still be used with single. So here is the first prototype, and if you're going to CES, this will be available to see at CES. And here's a closer up view of it. Here's a view from behind, in front. So there you go. And then here's what you'll be able to do. So imagine with this being associated with this, having objects appear in space in front of you. And I'm going to be finishing up a little version of Vince that can be seen in this to be shown at one of the phones at CES. So I'll be working frantically on Monday to finish that up. But I'm really excited about this, not just because I'm excited about the technology, but the fact is that you could make this reasonably priced with existing phone technology and have a lot of the features that are built into these proprietary systems made by Magic Leap and Microsoft HoloLens for far less. So there you can see that I'm reflecting it. So I'm just, wow, just kind of blown away what people have created. This is still up for pre-order, $99. So I would strongly recommend that you go ahead and pre-order. They'll be showing this off at CES. And like I said, it has a 3 degrees of freedom controller with it that works okay. If you're familiar with the Dreamer or the Daydream controller, this works very similar to that. So let's see, what are we at? Are we close to 12? We're at 12 now. So let's see if Jeff pops in, and we'll find out what else Occipital has in mind. Again, if you're not familiar with Occipital, and if you've been watching this show, you probably heard way too much from them. But not only do they have this OEM product that they've introduced for people like myself, but if you go out to the home button, they have their actual structure sensor and their bridge headset, which we've talked about. That is a little different than other headsets. One, because it provides one of the first versions of 6 degrees of freedom inside out tracking, but it also provides actual augmented or mixed reality. So you're seeing the real world, and he uses a unique proprietary technique to allow them to split the screen into a stereo view to give a 3 dimensional, and also overlays it with a 3D texture mesh of the current environment. So there's a lot going on with it. It's a really cool headset, and if you already have the sensor, they have a CES sale of 100. And I guess you can also buy, I was not aware of this, but it is now available for the iPhone X. And this will be extremely important because the iPhone 8, 7, and 6S um, leave a lot to be desired as far as the screen is concerned. Essentially, it's only a 720, a little bit more than that, screen divided between two eyes, whereas the iPhone X is close to, can't remember the exact, about what, 2700 pixels. So it's almost twice the resolution and a little wider. So it'll be very interesting. I'll have to talk to them when Jeff comes on to actually ask him about this. I mean, I can't imagine. Okay, he said he'll be with us in about 5 minutes. So, with that being the case, I'll just keep talking here, and then he'll be joining us here shortly. But the fun thing is that this headset allows, and I've shown it before, but allows you to see objects in the real world as well as uh, virtual objects. And if you've tried the HoloLens, it's very similar to that, but more importantly, you're not in the real world. It's a video representation, but they're mapping 3D information, 3D textures, and then splitting that into a parallax view so that it gives you a 3 dimensional view, and then putting objects on it. The other thing is because they're able to map the room, they know where things are in 3D spaces. So it knows where the tops of tables are, it knows the sides of walls. So you can literally take a VR mixed reality ball, apply physics to it, and then throw it at the wall, and it will bounce off the wall or it'll roll towards a wall. And if you put it on a table, it'll roll off the table. So it really gives a very stunning effect. Um, so really excited about this. Have been working with it for some time. As you know, I've had my own little Neo DVR headset that I've been working on. And okay, so uh, Jeff is writing to me. So I will write him back. Okay. So we're gonna just when he comes on, we're just gonna find out what they're going to be doing, and then we'll go from there. And I was hoping to actually have somebody on from Mira, but they have not replied. So we'll have to see where that goes. But if you're at CES, or I think you can probably buy this now for 100 off. If you've already got a sensor, it is now 179. If you don't have one, it's 299, which is really great because that means you can get the structure sensor and the headset for $300. And what's cool about this, unlike other inside-out tracking system, is not only do you get inside-out tracking to be used in like a headset like this, but you can also use it, and you don't have to use it just with the mixed reality. You can use it with VR. So you can use that with your headset, but you also get a sensor that with a case for your iPad or whatever, you can use it for 3D scanning. We've talked about ITZYs for some time. So this is really cool. You're really getting a huge deal on this. $299 uh, with the sensor is like, that's a no-brainer. That's kind of exciting. So we'll talk to Jeff about this and how long this particular sale will be going on. But wow, that actually is a really good price. And if you're not familiar with it, you obviously need an iPad. But in saying that, you don't. You can get they've got a developer cable, and that developer cable allows you to use it with your PC. They have some scanning software for your PC. And even though some people think that the scanning quality is not too bad, I know for one, in developing my own piece of software, as well as using the ITZYs, the results are actually pretty good. And I'd like to, well, I guess I could do, see, I guess I could bring it up. If you can go out to my Sketchfab, you can see my own uh, collection here. So a number of these were done, and for whatever reason, and I think I'm going to have the problem. I've messed up Chrome. It won't actually load the models and allow me to view them in Chrome. I had this problem once before, and I don't remember what the actual issue was, but it won't load. So, but I'll just jump back to this. So you can see what you're capable of doing, and all these were done using the structure sensor. Now, some of these are done like this was done with the Next engine. I do have a couple of photogrammetry examples in here, but most of these were done with the structure sensor. So you can get um, very, very good results from this. Um, and so to see this at a show price of $299 with the headset, I think is kind of really cool. I mean, not only do you get to try out inside out tracking in a mobile environment, but you also can use it as a sensor itself. So here's I have a lens, my 4 eyes lens set, which gives you even better detail. Here's something using the actual SkinX software, which you can, I can't actually load it. Sorry about that. So, as you know, I've covered a lot of 3D scanning applications as well as hardware. I still think this is one of the more versatile units. And so, if you're not familiar with it, I would really go out and take a look at it. So, I'd like to ask Jeff more about this. Okay, it says that the link is not working. So let me jump back to this. So he should be joining us here in a moment. Yep, here he no, only one viewer. So there he is. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
You still in your car, huh?
Still in the car up in Marin. I had to improvise here.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on. I'll put you on right now. So I didn't mean to put you on the spot. So we're going to just stick with Occipital. So obviously, you and I have some surprises. And I went out and actually saw that you have availables for other people to look at the structure core. But what else is Occipital doing? I mean, obviously, there are things that you and I have been working on over the years, and something that you're going to be taking there at CES, hopefully for people to look at. But
Yeah,
what else are you going to be doing there? And I've got your website, so you can go ahead and talk over it. Can you see
sure.
my screen?
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I thought was exciting is the fact is that you've got a great price, 299 for the headset and the sensor. And I tell people that for a versatile device that can not only be used for positional tracking in VR as well as mixed reality, it's a great little 3D scanner. And so you get a lot for your money for 299. In fact, it's 299. So is that just a show price? Is it going to be your new price?
So that'll probably just be a show price. So I recommend anybody wanting to get that price to take advantage of it now. We also had some good pricing over the holidays, so we're mostly continuing that through the show. Probably will wrap up after the show. With you, the bridge pricing is the best we've ever offered. So it's
No,
definitely
it's
yeah.
yeah, jaw dropping. I'm thinking, wow, if I didn't work so closely with you guys, I'd get one. I'm just kidding. Uh, so the other thing that no one told me
Yeah,
about, so I'm learning on my own, is that you're going to be offering this for the iPhone 10. Is it already out? What's the
it's out
situation on
now.
that?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's out. Yeah, and we just shipped the software update. So we now have a bridge for the iPhone 10. It's got a new phone enclosure. So the phone enclosure for the 7 and the 6S is not compatible because the phone is a different shape and size now, right?
Hmm.
Um, but we've created a new enclosure that's now available. So that can be purchased as well for the same pricing.
All right. So just so that my little brain can grasp that. So when you say enclosure, you're saying this. Remember that I've shown it on the all things 3D before, but you have a door that opens that the phone mounts into, and then you close it. So you're saying that door in the interior is changed. The rest of the headset hasn't changed,
Right.
has it?
Yeah, yeah. You can think of it as like a door, kind of the thing that swings open and holds the phone. Yeah, we call that the phone enclosure, and so that part is changing to accommodate the phone as it has to, because it's like a perfect fit. We line up the camera. We have a known relationship between the camera on the phone and the structure sensor, so that all is rigidly aligned. And the iPhone 10 now has a new enclosure. We even kept an opening for the second camera on the iPhone 10. So if you put our wide vision lens on the bridge headset, that'll be
Yeah, so
sitting over
that's what I
top of the.
see right here. It's a very small image. Too bad I can't expand it, but I do see that you
Yeah.
have the little lens there as well.
Yeah. So you can actually take the wide vision lens off and do cool effects and experiments with the stereo cameras that are on the iPhone 10 as well, which we haven't really had much chance to work with yet, but it's possible, and you can just take the lens off, and we kept both cameras clear.
Well, that's pretty neat. So can one, if you've already got the bridge for an earlier phone, can you buy just the door?
Yeah, we will probably sell the enclosures. People can reach out directly to our support team now if they want to try to do that. I don't think we have it on the website right now,
Yeah, I
but
didn't see it.
right, that's something we're getting in soon. I don't know if they're in stock right now, but we will allow you to just buy the new door and the new enclosure and upgrade.
Okay, and they still use, what is it, 37.5 millimeter diameter lenses? Is that correct? Was
Uh,
that 38, somewhere around there?
oh, in the headset, yeah,
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 okay.
that's still the same. The effective FOV gets a little bit bigger on the iPhone 10 because
Makes
before we were
sense.
limited in part by the screen, and now we're not at all by the screen.
And as I mentioned earlier, that's twice the resolution with this now. I mean, so that should just, yeah, I'm very
Yeah,
impressed. And obviously, with a better processor, you can push more pixels, right?
yeah, that's right. It's we can pretty much maintain the same or higher frame rates, and we can, but even though we're getting the higher resolution, so it's pretty nice. And um, I think the OLED screen too will have some benefits in terms of, or seems to have some benefits in terms of persistence.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you guys get a chance, you should do some Yeah, it's kind of hard. I had to create a special mount so that I could look into a lens. But you should probably put something together and put something out there, because I'd really like, I think a lot of people would like to see uh, the
See the
results of
improvement.
this.
Yeah.
Mhm. So if you get a
Yeah.
chance, put some
Absolutely.
video out there that, or I guess I'll have to figure out how to get an iPhone 10, and then we'll talk later and I'll do it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's
There you
really
go.
cool. So as you know, because you provide 3D scanning, you have some other things that
Yeah.
have been in the works. One of the things that I used over the year as I moved up to Portland was to scan a lot of the rooms in my home using, what's the name of the product?
Canvas.
Canvas. I don't know if that's on your
Canvas. Yeah.
website here,
Yeah.
but
You know,
Canvas.
you scroll down. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. If you go to the bottom here, you'll see it. Scroll down. There you go. Right in the middle
Okay.
there. Yeah.
So yeah, and great little product. And your service that you offer, which was it? I was getting probably better turnaround. What do you have? 48 hours, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. 48-hour turnaround. We're trying to reduce that even further. We almost always hit the 48, and but yeah, you get back a fully design ready CAD. So you get back right now. We're doing SketchUp, and anybody that's interested in Revit, we also can export uh, DAE and DWG files. Um, or actually, I think it's yeah, DAE and data,
Yeah.
DWG and SKP, and that can be open in all sorts of different programs. And then we've been getting a lot of interest for Revit specifically. So like Revit native files is another tool that people use for a lot of
Well, that makes
interior.
a lot of sense. Yeah, having a background
Yeah.
many years ago working with an architectural firm, yeah, Revit was just coming aboard. Now we're talking, gosh, 25 years ago. And so it's really big in architectural work. And one of the architects that I've been working on some of the things here in Portland also is a Revit user, as well as a Sketchfab. So the fact that you were able to use Sketchfab right out of the box, I think
Yeah.
is a big plus, and allowed
Mhm.
me to not only get very close, obviously, and you do identify that they're not exact, but if you take enough of the rooms and you do have the ability to scan multiple rooms and a service to build the multiple rooms and put them together so that you don't have to, and you save a few hours in having you guys do it versus
Yeah.
the designer.
Yeah.
But
And exactly. Yeah. Usually it really should pay for itself in terms of time saved. We get a lot of details. I mean, whenever I've seen somebody try to do their own SketchUp, they miss a lot of details just because, nope, there aren't that many, typical folks aren't experts in SketchUp. So you'll create the walls, maybe you'll have 4 walls and ceiling, and you'll just have a very simple model. But what you get back from Canvas has electrical outlets boxed out. It has trim. It has all the doors, the windows. You get a much more, typically speaking, unless you're kind of a pro in SketchUp, you're going to get back a better you would typically create yourself, and it'll save you a ton of time. And you don't have to learn really how to do all that stuff in SketchUp. Then from there, you can just start dropping things in. You can delete walls. You can just play with it, and it's a lot easier than getting really proficient in building in SketchUp. And accuracy wise, it's limited by the sensor um, and the whole process, but it's generally pretty good. We're generally seeing about 1% accuracy on most of the measurements.
yeah, but
And
don't get me wrong. I wasn't trying to make
yeah,
that a negative. There is a little bit of that, and what I found it is when you attach more than one room. Now, keep in mind, I was
yeah,
doing this when you guys weren't even offering that yet, but you do offer
mm,
that now, and you combine that, and so you kind of eliminate that. So if you do every room, you'll combine them into one large sketch up, or one of the other
yeah,
modeling formats that you mentioned. And yes, even if you are an expert with SketchUp, starting with this as your base is far better than having to work from scratch from a blueprint. And what I've done is taken the blueprints and then put this on top of it. Then you can expand and your model and scale it so that it matches exactly the blueprint just by pulling on the different items. So you can get even better accuracy from
mm-hmm,
that. So there's a few
yeah,
tips from there, but I highly recommend it. And with the great price that you've got, not only can you get the sensor cheaper now, but now you got a headset that you can take to a client and actually show them their environment, because as I mentioned, this isn't just for mixed reality. You can still do VR with Unity with the structure sensors. So you can walk around. And again, this is all without cables. So it's all built into a contained unit that you can wear on your head and take it anywhere. So a lot of positive features there.
That's right.
And
That's
if
right.
you
Yeah, that's awesome.
and if
Yeah.
somebody's ever tried Google
Yeah.
Cardboard or Daydream, you're stuck in one position unless you use a little controller to teleport. But with this system, you can literally walk around using the structure sensor as your 6 degrees of freedom inside-out tracking system.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. You mentioned CES, and so we've got these sales going on for CES. And the other thing about CES is we've got two pretty exciting things that we're going to be kind of announcing. Earlier this year we acquired Paracosm, which is a LiDAR mapping company, and we're going to be showing. We're going to be going to CES for the first time with Paracosm. So the whole team will be a bunch of the folks from the team there are going to be coming to show off the new PX80, which is our new crazy powerful 3D scanning device that the structure sensor, you're typically using it for an indoor space, maybe a room, maybe a house, but the PX80 has a range of 100 meters. So, and that's thanks to the LiDAR technology. We're using a Velodyne puck LiDAR inside of the PX80. And so we can get 100 meters in all directions. Essentially, that means we can map, a city street when you walk down the road, house, just by walking around for a couple of minutes.
Now, I have some experience with the Trimble systems. How does it compare? What's your point cloud density?
Trimble systems, generally the tripod-based Trimble systems, is that kind of what you're thinking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those systems have a very good accuracy. So the big difference is we capture color point clouds. So Trimble system's great if you got one spot, one major room, let's call it, that you want to scan, or one area on a street, for example, that you want to scan. Could be great. But this system, what makes it different, it's perfect for cases where you actually want to capture a larger area that you want to walk around. A system where normally you'd have to take a tripod and put it in 10 or 20 different places. With the PX80, you just walk around. So pick it up, carry it. You can put it on a backpack. You can hold we have a stick. You can hold it with, and you just walk around. And 3 minutes, you can scan a warehouse. You could scan a city block. You can even stick it out of a car and drive slowly. So the fact that it's mobile just saves 10, in some cases 10 or 20 times required.
So what's the name of the company again?
So the team it's the Paracosm team. It's a division of Occipital now, but you can actually check out their website, paracosm.io, COSM.io. And if you go check that out, you'll be able to see their
COSM.
Yep.
No, I don't. You said COSM.
Sorry, PARACOSM.
PARA. Say the last word.
COSM. Paracosm.
.io.
.io.
Ah, look, there's the little Occipital logo in there now. See what you did there. All right, let me just put that on the main screen now.
Sure.
Wow, you guys do a good job of not spilling the beans. So what's funny is that I think I've talked about this company some time ago, or something similar to that. And they use this in caves, which I think would be really pretty cool. You put this in a backpack and you just walk through the cave, and then it scans the entire cave.
You can definitely do things like that. There's folks that are scanning entire forests in Japan. just by walking around. We've got an amazing scan on the side of our booth at CES of downtown Gainesville, Florida, and no, it's just amazing. The scale is just crazy. So we made the acquisition because they're a great team, and also because there's a lot of, let's call it, synergy between what we're doing with Canvas. Sometimes people will come to us and say, you know, I love Canvas. I've been scanning homes. Now I want to scan these warehouses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to do like a warehouse with Canvas, but with
Mm-hmm.
the PX80, you know, it's a cinch. So I'm excited. We're going to be showing that off at the show. We've got a PX80 model that'll be there. We've got a video.
Cool.
We'll have folks there. So that's one major thing. And then the last major thing that I'll mention,
okay,
showing a little bit of a sneak peek, is we are going to be showing off our occipital tracking technology using this time not the structure core, but a stereo camera setup at Intuitive. They have this stereo module, and we're basically going to be streaming a stereo camera module to and we're going to be doing VR tracking. And the significance of that is, again, we can provide our occipital, you know, high quality, but we can do it with, in this case, just two stereo, you know, a stereo pair, which
now, when you say stereo pair, you're talking about RGB cameras?
Yeah, just visible spectrum cameras. They could be color. In this case, they're just plain visible. They're looking at the whole visible spectrum, monochrome. And those cameras are just looking out using the natural light. And then we're doing natural feature tracking and SLAM to not only track position, but also build a model with lines and points of the environment around the user. And so we're able to give you some obstacle awareness. You can see where things are around you, and no lighthouse required at all. And the mapping is instantaneous. It just starts working immediately. And that's one of the benefits we get from the stereo cameras, immediately tracking your position. We don't even have to require any initial movement like we do with our monocular tracking. So we're going to be showing that off, and pretty nice. Yeah.
Well, in saying that, you know that, I don't know if you've gotten a hold of one, that the mixed reality headset that Microsoft makes uses a similar technique.
That's right.
Dual
It's
parallax cameras.
it's
So
sort of
very
like
interesting.
some tracking tech and put it into your own device.
Cool. Well, I look forward to that. So, and then finally, you know, something that we had talked about that I'm assuming it was delivered today. You should have a prototype of something that I have been working on, combining your core technology, and we showed it a little bit earlier. You've got a website out there, so if you're an OEM, you can actually get the structure sensor technology along with dual infrared cameras. So you were talking about the parallax functionality, so you get a little bit of that now with the structured light functionality, and it's all built in a very compact package. And so, can I say that?
Yeah. So I mean,
I've had an
basically,
opportunity. So I've had an opportunity to actually look at it. It's extremely lightweight, and my goal is to use that with the Mira Prism, which I covered earlier, to provide, you know, if you're familiar with the HoloLens, something like that with an iPhone. And I'm really excited about the possibilities of that. As mentioned, I sent Jeff a prototype, and he has everything to possibly get it up and running. We obviously, he's got a lot on his plate, so we didn't spend as much time as I was hoping. But he will be showing that at CES, so please get a chance. Yeah, I don't know if he'll have it out there. I'm assuming Kevin will be there as well, who I guess is your project manager for the core, or the I don't know what his actual title is, but he will probably have it in his hands, and he'll be actually talking with Mira Prism. So there might be a lot more to come later on. That's a low cost product for about $100. It fits with currently just the 6, 7, and 8, but there are also plans with the iPhone 10 as well. And it's a very cool little device that straps onto your head with a semi-mirrored lens system. And really, it for what it cost and what it presents, I was kind of blown away. Actually, having tried a $3,500 HoloLens, and I like to use the word now. It's twice as big as a VHS tape, because I don't know if you saw any of the articles from Rolling Stones on the Magic Leap, but the author said of this particular article that what he could see was about the size of a VHS tape. And so I found that the Mira Prism was about twice that. So it'll be very interesting what we can come up with. So you've frozen. I don't know if you're still with us. Okay. Well, it appears that he's frozen, but that's a good time for me to sign off on the show. So, Jeff, thank you for coming on. If you can still hear me, I appreciate it. And obviously, there's a lot there. Was not aware of the LiDAR system that they'll be, and I was going to ask him about pricing, but maybe he can mention that to me a little bit later, and I can talk about it maybe on my Tuesday show. But that's pretty exciting because I think LiDAR is the next direction, and obviously he thinks so as well. So if you're going to CES, obviously Occipital has plenty to talk about and plenty to show off. So on that note, I am going to jump back to my screen since all you're looking at is a frozen version of him. So, you know, Heaven, we've been working for some time, Jeff and I, over the last 3 years, and lots of cool products on their part. So head out to CS, and let's see, I did have them up. Let's see if I still have. I have Mirror Reality, as we just mentioned, and let's go back out to Occipital, and then I am signing off. So they are in the LVCC South Hall, and obviously there are lots of things in the South Hall. In that area. Oh, he's back. So I've got to take off as well, Jeff, and I just pretty much signed you out. Told everybody there's a lot to see. I wish I had known. Maybe I would have actually wanted to go to CES, but I'm really excited. Now, you may or may not want to talk about pricing on this LiDAR system, but how much?
Yeah, so the LiDAR system is, we are talking about pricing. It's expensive, but it's extremely powerful. And if it's too pricey for you now, check back a year later because LiDAR is going to get cheaper with the introduction of self-driving cars. But right now, the first generation of the PX80 is being produced. It costs $25,000, but it's an insanely powerful system. You've got to look at the data. If you need to map a city block, a bunch of warehouses, believe it or not, it can actually save a lot of money. It can routinely cost $50,000 or $100,000 to get an extremely detailed map of, say, a warehouse today, and you can do that with the PX80.
Well, and to let our audience know, the important thing about LiDAR or this particular system, even though on my show I've talked about very less, what do you want to call it, do-it-yourself projects, LiDAR systems from companies like Trimble and others are $100,000. So you have to keep that in mind. So 25,000, even though that's not structure sensor pricing, that is still a lot less than what you would pay from one of these other companies. So that is something. And also the fact is it is completely mobile, whereas some of these other, they have to be on tripods. And there are reasons for that because they're extremely big and bulky.
That's right. Yeah. It's and don't get me wrong, the tripod systems they have amazing accuracy benefits in certain cases, but they're not mobile, and the time cost is just really high, and you don't get the color cloud that we get with the PX80. So, and and my phone cut out while we were talking about the Mira experiments, and I'm excited. I didn't yet get your prototype, but I'm excited to unpackage that, and we should follow up again and talk once we've had a chance to look at that at the show and to kind of tell the world about that experiment with the Mira and the structure core.
Okay. Well, and obviously reach out to me once you do get it. If you plan to play around with it, there are some notes. It is a little rough around the edges, and I don't want you to crack the stem off. It fits very tightly. So you'll see that if you actually, what type of phone do you have?
I've got a 7.
Okay, so you have an iPhone 7. So that has the same specifications as the iPhone 6 and 6S, so you should be okay with it. It is very tight. You can plug it in there, but once you get it in, just make sure that you don't push it too hard. You'll see what I'm talking about. But other than that, you can try it on. It's pretty cool. Not much you can do with it right now, but hopefully that will change.
That's
Okay.
right.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you coming
right.
on, and yeah, great
All right. Well,
job,
thanks for
and look forward to
thanks for
seeing more
getting
of
us
what
on.
you do at CES. Bye.
Very good. Talk to you soon.